In the classic movie Star Wars, Princess Leia is forced to be aboard the Death Star and watch the destruction of her own home planet Alderaan by the evil Empire. However, after the disaster, Princess Leia, along with other members of her planet, were able to travel around the galaxy advocating for their cause and fighting with the rebellion. However, in 2017, we don't have that same luxury. As climate change continues to play a larger and larger role in our day-to-day lives and continues to take a larger and larger chunk out of our daily news cycle, it is becoming an ever more important topic of discussion. And as climate change continues to increase in severity across our planet, it is ever more important that we discuss how we need to tackle the issue. And we have to understand that the fight against climate change definitely passes all four parts of the four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? But first, we have to understand that climate change definitely is the truth, even if this question might be a little bit debated if we look towards politics for our answers. But when we look towards the hard data and the facts of the matter, the answer is clear. Climate change is real, and it's something that we need to be fighting against. Even the Environmental Protection Agency, on their website, last updated in January of 2017, points out that over 97% of actively publishing climate change researchers agree that climate change is real, it's a problem, it's caused by humans, and it's getting worse. And although in the early 1970s, when climate change was first discussed as a problem, there wasn't very much actual evidence to back it up, in 2017, this is no longer the case. Because as NASA reports, on February 2nd of 2017, the studies that NASA has been doing in the past 20 years have uncovered huge masses of data that show that climate change is real. Specifically, when we look at NASA satellite images of the poles and the glaciers in our polar regions across the planet, we can see over the past 20 years the size of our glaciers has decreased dramatically. And as the glaciers continue to melt, they only contribute more and more fresh water to our oceans, which is impacting weather patterns and climate patterns across the entirety of the planet. Thus, because in 2017 there's so much data that shows that climate change is the truth, it's impossible to ignore. But next, we have to understand that the fight against climate change is fair to all those concerned, because no matter where you fit on the income bracket or where you live in the world, we're all affected by climate change. And although us living in suburban Ohio might not see the effects of it right now, unless we act right now in the present, we will see the effects in the future, and by that time it'll be too late. But one of the places on our planet where we already have seen the impacts are in rural third world countries, especially those in Africa. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace notes on March 10th of 2017 that right now the famine in Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia is one of the worst that the region has seen in over 50 years. And the United Nations predicts that in 2017, almost 49 million people could go hungry. But the problem is a lot deeper than this, and doesn't just have to deal with hungry Africans. Instead, the article goes on to tell us that famines not only in Africa, but across the entire world contribute to political instability and the rise of terrorist organizations such as Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda. We've already seen the impact that these terrorist organizations can have on Western countries, especially the United States. So it's essentially crucial that we fight against climate change now, and it is clear that it is fair to all concerned, because unless we fight now, we won't be able to in the future. But next, we have to understand that the fight against climate change will build goodwill and better friendships, and we need to act together in order to solve the problem. In the past few decades, it seems that climate change and environmental issues have become increasingly partisan in nature. But this isn't how it should be, because whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or other, we all live on this planet, and we all have to use the resources that are doled out to us. No matter what political affiliation you have, this is the only planet we have, and if we destroy it now, there won't be any future for us. And this isn't only a problem that is dealt with in Washington, D.C. by politicians and in other world capitals across the globe. This is an issue that can be dealt with in our own homes, in our own communities. Whether it be just turning off the lights in a room when you're not using them, or turning off the faucet when you're brushing your teeth. Even these small actions that seem relatively insignificant can go a large way in fighting against climate change. And then if we work within our communities and we inform other people of how big the issues really are, it'll build goodwill and friendship along the way, as we work with other people in our community and save the planet at the same time. But finally, we must understand that the fight against climate change will be beneficial to all concerned, because us as a civilization and as a species are only as good as our weakest link. And in 2017, even here in the United States, we are already beginning to see our weakest link crumble. As the New York Times points out, Joanna Borg, a young mother of 4 living in southern Louisiana, wakes up every single morning wondering whether or not the bridge that connects her house to the mainland is going to be washed out by the tides that increase every single day, every single year. But this isn't only a problem that people in coastal areas of the United States are facing. Whether it be the tropical rainforests of Brazil, the deserts of North Africa, or tiny islands in the Pacific Ocean, us across the entirety of the planet have to act against climate change now, because if we don't, in the future it could be too disastrous to impact. Even the United Nations High Council on Refugees predicts that by the year 2050, over 200 million people worldwide could be displaced by the physical impacts of climate change, not including the socioeconomic impacts of terrorism and war. Thus, it is ever more important that we act against climate change now and understand that the fight against climate change is beneficial to all concerned, because unless we act now, there might not be a future for us to act later. So, although in the movie Star Wars, Princess Leia, after her home planet of Alderaan was destroyed, was able to travel around the entirety of the galaxy fighting for her cause, we have to understand that in 2017 we don't have that luxury. Earth is our only planet. Unless we act now in 2017 to save it, there won't be a new hope for us. Thank you.